Hello everyone, this is Price, Senior Solutions Architect at Bit, and I'm here today to introduce you to an amazing new feature that is about to become the quickest, most convenient way that you can make changes to your components within Bit, and we call it Cloud Workspaces. Now, with the click of a button, we can give you a working VS Code instance optimized for Bit and containing just the components that you want to work on. This happens in seconds, is highly secure, highly performant, and you don't have to install the Bit CLI or anything, nothing locally. And like usual, I don't really want to tell you all the features of what Cloud Workspaces can do right now, but I'd rather show you. So let's get started. Okay, so we are here on the new Cloud Workspaces screen, and what we want to do is just go over here to an actual component. This is a component I made in the past, and we're in a lane. We have this add chip hover lane, and a collaborator has already started the process of making this component, and we just want to add hover to these chips. That's all we want to do. So this is just an example of kind of your typical day-to-day work as a front-end engineer, right? And now previously we would have used the import button. We would have imported this component. We would have had Bit all installed, etc. Now we don't have to do any of that. Now we have this edit lane button right here. So I'm going to click that, and we're going to get our fully working VS Code instance with this component to work on. So I'm just going to let this load for a second, and then we'll get to work. Okay, our workspace has loaded. We have our component present, and we can get to work. Now, you'll see that we have the Bit plugin present here, and we will use that in a second. But for now, we just want to add hover to these chips. Now you might be thinking, all right, cool, we have a IDE in the browser. That's awesome, but how do I actually get any work done? How do I run my dev server? Things like that. That's one of the things I do most in Bit. Well, it's super easy. All we have to do is open the command palette here in VS Code and type start, and Bit start is the first option. We're just going to hit run on that. Don't have to go to the CLI or anything, and we will get a link here just like we would locally. And I can command click on that as soon as it finishes compiling, and we will get a link to a working dev server. I can click through to this example, go to the preview, and in a second here we will have the exact same developer preview that we would have locally with hot reloading and everything. So now we can see our changes in action. So let's just go in here. We're going to do this material UI style in the SX prop, which means we do this ampersand hover business and pass that an object. And on hover, we want to change the background color, right? So we're going to change that to RGBA 000.1, I suppose. That is black at 10% opacity. And if we come back over here, we should have it reload. And sure enough, we can hover over our chips and see that they've got the hover color. Awesome. So we're done with that. We can now snap our changes and export them. How do we do that? Well, exactly the same way as starting. We just go in here, we can type snap, and we already have an option here to snap tag local changes and export them. So let's go ahead and hit that. That's going to run for us. We see that the snap succeeded down here. The export was successful. We get a link right to go to Ripple CI and see our build in action. And now this is the default way to push components through the system with Bit, but there are others. For instance, I have over here a example workspace in GitHub, and we have a create branch from lane workflow within this, which is a script that we provide, you could use. And if I wanted to, I would just have to hit this run workflow and type in the name of my lane in here. So I could add chip component, hit run workflow, and it would create a branch in my Git repository from my bit lane. So this makes it really easy to collaborate back and forth. There are many ways of doing this, but the end point is we were able to make these changes extremely quickly right from the browser without needing to install or manage any of the details. So now that we've seen this, and I hope this possibility gets you excited, we'll go back to the Cloud Workspace UI within bit.cloud, and I'll show you a little bit more of the features. Okay, let's go back to our workspace page. And here we'll see that we have our add chip hover workspace where we just did our work. In the options here, we can go back to the editor, we could stop the workspace, etc. And this is a temporary workspace. And really what that means is it will last for about 60 days. If we don't touch it, it'll go away. And most of the time that's what you want with workspaces in Bit, because we can make these small precision point-in-time changes on a component-to-component basis. It really doesn't work like Git, where we want to have our changes around forever in code, or at least in our workspace. So it's okay for this to expire almost all of the time. But if you do want to keep something around, you can just pin it, and it will show up here in my workspaces and be available for the long term. Now, we also have a couple other ways of creating workspaces. It's not just from a lane. You could also start from scratch. And we provide some ways for you to do that. So a React starter, for instance, if you want to make something in React, we have the Next.js start with a full stack Next.js app. And these will basically put a number of components into your workspace for you, giving you a nice running start to get going and make changes quickly. And there are a lot more starters coming. Some of them are very exciting too. Design System is another one that people use a lot. So we could just click Use Starter. It'll ask us where we want to put the starter. Within Bit, we would create the workspace, and we'd get right to work. Another way to create workspaces would be to go to back to our component. So I'm just going to click on the component here. And by the way, we can see that this did build in Ripple. So if we went back to our lane and look at this component's preview, we will see that we have our hover here. Awesome. But we also can make edits, if we want, directly on a component. So I could go back to our main lane here even, take another component like the Tailwind component, hit the Edit Component button, and make changes to just this one component. So you can make changes at the component level, you can start from scratch, you can change a lane. So this is an exciting new development in the developer experience of Bit. I know I am extremely excited to use this workflow frequently. Again, I think it is amazing for those small point-in-time changes, but there are also some huge effects potentially for enterprises, for instance. Just the effect of not having to install Bit at scale might be extremely attractive to many organizations. It's attractive to me, and I've never had an issue with it. But if you're installing anything across many, many machines, you're going to hit hiccups. There are also security considerations to take in place. You may have difficulty running on older hardware, but these cloud workspaces are containerized, they're isolated, so they're very secure, and they are highly performant, as we've seen, and they're optimized for Bit. So in many cases, they might be faster than your local machine. So I think this is going to be a revolutionary workflow for many developers. I'm very excited to start playing with it. I'm very excited to share it with you. And thank you so much for taking the time to look over cloud workspaces with me. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.